What if I told you that the secret to absolutely melting his brain and making him addicted to your touch is not about doing more, but about knowing exactly where to press the hidden button? Listen to me right now, because we are going to dive deep into something that most couples never even talk about, let alone master. For over 15 years, I have sat across from thousands of women listening to their deepest frustrations about dating relationships. And yes, what happens under the sheets? You have probably been told your whole life that guys are simple, that his equipment operates like a light switch. You flick it on and boom, he is ready to go. But I am here to tell you, as a man and as someone who has dedicated his career to understanding human connection, that treating him like a simple on and off switch is exactly why so many encounters feel mechanical instead of magical. If you want to send him over the edge, and I mean really give him that mind-bending fireworks exploding behind his eyelids kind of jackpot, you have to understand the blend between his emotional surrender and the physical mechanics of his hidden pleasure points. I want to talk about the physical movements today. I want to talk about how you use your hands, your pacing, and your energy to unlock a level of ecstasy he did not even know he was capable of feeling. We are going straight to the sweet spot today. But before we get to the exact coordinates of his magic wand, we have to set the stage, because physical touch without emotional context is just friction. And we do not want just friction, we want a deep, undeniable connection. Think about his body as an instrument. If you just walk up and smash the keys on a piano, you make noise, but you do not make music. To make music, you have to know the rhythm, the pressure, and the exact moment to strike the right key. When a man is getting busy with you, his brain is often flooded with performance anxiety. Yes, guys get it too. He is thinking about how he is doing, how long he is lasting, and whether you are having a good time. This takes him out of his own body. Your job in this moment, if you want to trigger that instant mind-blowing peak, is to pull him out of his head and anchor him completely in his physical senses. You do this through confident, deliberate movement. Let us talk about the warm-up before you even get to his main attraction. Your hands need to communicate that you are in total control. Men carry a ridiculous amount of tension in their daily lives, always having to be the driver, the provider, the one steering the ship. When he is under the sheets with you, the greatest gift you can give him is the permission to completely let go. Start with your fingertips, not your whole palm, just the pads of your fingers tracing down his chest. You are applying just enough pressure to drag the skin slightly. This is highly mechanical, but it is deeply emotional, because a firm, slow touch tells his nervous system that you are present. You are not rushing. You are not just trying to get to the finish line. You are savoring him. Move your hands down his stomach using a painfully slow pace. This is where the mechanical how to becomes absolutely crucial. Most people rush the runway. They want to get straight to the joystick because they think that is where all the action is. But the anticipation of the touch is actually what wires his brain for a massive explosion later. As your fingers trace down the center of his stomach, let your breath sync up with his. If his breathing is shallow and fast, keep your movement slow to ground him. You are basically hypnotizing him with your hands. Now we approach the territory that changes everything. There is a specific zone that acts as the master volume dial for his pleasure. We are talking about the undercarriage, the base camp. Down there, he has a network of nerves that are almost entirely ignored in standard vanilla encounters. When you finally take hold of his joystick, I want you to change your grip entirely. Forget the frantic up and down motion you see in the movies. That is noise, not music. Instead, I want you to focus your attention on the exact spot where the shaft meets the tip underneath. There is a small ridge there, a little runway under the hood that is incredibly sensitive. This is the sweet spot. Mechanically speaking, you want to use the pad of your thumb. You wrap your fingers gently around the main attraction, but your thumb is doing the absolute precision work. You press into that little ridge just under the tip where the skin connects. You apply a firm circular pressure, not a frantic rub, but a deliberate rhythmic pulse. Press and release, press and release. Every time you press, you are sending a shockwave of pleasure straight up his spine and into his brain. But here is the secret sauce, the emotional layer that makes this physical movement devastatingly effective. While your thumb is working that hidden button, you have to hold eye contact. Do not look down at what your hands are doing. Look at his face. Watch his jaw clench. Watch his eyes roll back. By holding his gaze while you deliver this hyper-focused physical sensation, you are forcing an emotional intimacy that makes the physical pleasure feel 10 times more intense. You are telling him without words, I know exactly what I am doing to you and I love watching you lose control. This combination of the precise thumb pressure on the sweet spot under the hood mixed with the dominant unwavering eye contact creates a relentless feedback loop of arousal. He feels the physical spike from your thumb and he feels the emotional spike from your eyes holding him captive. But we are not done, because to truly trigger that instant mind melting jackpot, we have to engage the second half of this pleasure system, and that involves the base. While your top hand is working the joystick and your thumb is pulsing on that sensitive ridge under the hood, your other hand needs to travel south. we are going down to the grounding pad. That little patch of territory right behind the main equipment and before his back door, this is the absolute center of his nervous system down there. The mechanical movement here requires immense trust. You are not going to poke or prod aggressively. You are going to use the flat pads of your middle and index fingers. You reach down and you press firmly upward into that grounding pad. The pressure should be steady, like you are trying to feel his pulse right through the skin. When you press firmly into this base camp while simultaneously working the ridge under the hood, you are effectively trapping his pleasure in a closed circuit. You are pushing energy up from the bottom and stimulating the most sensitive nerve endings at the top. The mechanical synergy of these two hands working together is what flips the switch from a regular good time to an absolute out-of-body experience. But remember the rule of intimacy I always talk about. Mechanics without emotion is just a machine. As you are applying this dual pressure, your pacing has to match his vocal cues. If he groans or his breathing hitches you, do not speed up. That is the biggest mistake people make in the bedroom. They hear a good noise and they immediately go faster, thinking faster is automatically better. No, when he makes a noise, that means you have found the exact right rhythm. You lock into that rhythm, you stay exactly there. You let him marinate in that feeling. You stretch out the tension until he is absolutely begging for the release. You want him to feel like he is hovering right on the edge of the cliff and your hands are the only thing keeping him from falling over. This is where the profound emotional connection happens. In this space of intense physical vulnerability where your hands are manipulating his most sensitive zones, he is completely at your mercy. For a man who spends his entire life trying to be strong and in control, this feeling of utter surrender is intoxicating to his soul. He becomes addicted not just to the physical fireworks you are giving him, but to the deep psychological relief of not having to be the one in charge for once. You are the conductor. You are running the show. And when you finally decide to push him over the edge, when you increase the pressure on that hidden button and let him hit the jackpot, the rush of oxytocin and dopamine will bond him to you in a way that regular casual encounters simply cannot ever achieve. This is the true power of mixing the exact right physical technique with the deepest level of emotional understanding. You are not just giving him a good night, you are changing the way his nervous system responds to you entirely. And this is just the foundation, because once you establish this trust, there is an entire world of physical pacing that we need to unpack. The way you use friction, the temperature of your touch, and the exact angle of your wrist can completely alter the experience. Think about how a master locksmith picks a lock. Do not just jam the key in and twist. They listen to the tumblers. They apply micro adjustments in pressure. When you are working his sweet spot, your thumb needs to act like that master locksmith. If you notice his hips lifting off the bed, that is your cue to ease off the speed, but increase the downward pressure. This is a crucial mechanical adjustment. Speed builds the frenzy, but pressure builds the depth of the sensation. I hear from women all the time who say, Matthew, I feel like my hands get tired or I lose the rhythm. The trick here is to use your whole arm, not just your wrist. Lock your wrist and let the movement come from your elbow and shoulder. This gives you a relentless, steady endurance that drives him absolutely crazy. It feels more grounded, more intentional. He will feel the difference between a flimsy wrist movement and a grounded, powerful stroke that tells him you own this moment. Now let us weave the emotion back into this mechanical mastery. As you are holding this steady, powerful rhythm and your fingers are working the base camp, I want you to bring your face incredibly close to his. Do not kiss him yet. Just let him feel your breath on his neck or his jaw. The contrast between the heavy, intense stimulation happening downstairs and the soft, intimate whisper of your breath up top creates a sensory overload. This is what breaks down his final emotional walls. You are engaging his lower brain with the physical touch and his higher brain with the intimacy. Whisper something simple but commanding. Tell him to look at you. Tell him to breathe. When you guide his breathing, you are literally sensing his cardiovascular system with your commands. It is profoundly intimate. It strips away all the ego and all the performative masculinity he carries around all day. He is just a raw, exposed nerve in your hands. This is the exact moment where the instant jackpot is triggered. It is not just the friction on the hidden button under the hood, and it is not just the pressure on the grounding pad. It is the perfect storm of physical entrapment and emotional permission. You have built the fire, you have stoked the flames, and you've cornered his pleasure, so he has nowhere to go but up. When you finally speed up the thumb circles on that ridge and you press just a little bit harder into the base, you will physically feel his muscles contract. Do not stop. This is the most critical mechanical instruction I can give you. When the fireworks start, most people pause or back away because the energy shifts. Stay right there. Maintain the exact same pressure. Ride out the storm with him. By staying physically anchored to him through the peak of the explosion, you are emotionally anchoring yourself to his most vulnerable state. This creates an invisible string between you two that lingers long after the sheets have cooled down. He will not just remember how it felt, he will remember how you made him feel safe enough to completely lose his mind. Think about the way you hold his joystick. A lot of women use a grip that is entirely too tight right at the middle of the shaft. Mechanically, this cuts off the sensitivity where it matters most. You want your grip to be firm at the base and lighter at the top, allowing the skin to glide naturally. This glide is the mechanical secret to building an agonizingly beautiful amount of friction. As you glide up, your thumb naturally finds that V-spot under the hood. When you pull down your palm brushes against the base camp, it is a continuous loop of sensory input. And while you are maintaining this perfect piston-like rhythm with your arm, your emotional connection is what keeps him grounded. You see, the male body is wired to seek release quickly. Evolution designed him to hit the jackpot and be done. But your goal is to override his evolutionary wiring. You do this by using your physical mechanics to build the fire and your emotional presence to contain it. When he feels that you are not just performing a task, but actually studying his pleasure, his brain releases a massive dose of oxytocin. This hormone actively fights against the stress hormones that cause premature finishes. So by looking into his eyes, by breathing with him, by whispering his name, you are chemically slowing down his nervous system while physically speeding up his arousal. This creates a gap, a massive canyon between his arousal and his finish line. And in that canyon, you can play, you can make him wait, you can make him beg. You can tease that hidden button under the hood, pressing it just hard enough to make him gasp and then completely releasing the pressure, letting your hand slide back down to the grounding pad. The physical absence of your thumb on that sweet spot is just as powerful as the pressure itself. It is the mechanics of deprivation. When you take away the sensation he desperately wants, his emotional desire for you skyrockets. He will physically reach for your hand. He will chase the touch. And that is when you know you have completely flipped the dynamic. He is no longer the one running the show. You have hijacked his nervous system. You are the master of his physical universe in this moment. This is how you create an unforgettable encounter that leaves him daydreaming about your hands when he is sitting in a boardroom the next day. Now that you have him completely locked into your rhythm and his brain is swimming in this intoxicating cocktail of dopamine and surrender, we need to talk about sensory expansion, because to truly trigger that mind-bending instant jackpot, you have to understand that his pleasure does not exist in a vacuum. It is connected to every single nerve ending in his body. And if you only focus on the main attraction, you are leaving so much potential connection on the table. Think about when you drop a stone into a perfectly still pond where the splash happens in one spot, but the ripples travel outward until they touch every single edge of the water. When you trigger his sweet spot, you are dropping the stone, but if his surrounding muscles are tense or ignore those ripples, hit a wall and stop right there. We want those ripples of pleasure to crash through his entire nervous system without any resistance. So while your hands are doing the precision work on the joystick, I want you to start using your own body weight to pin him down emotionally and physically. Slip your leg over his. Press the soft inside of your thigh against his hip. This is a profound mechanical move because it restricts his movement just enough to make him feel delightfully trapped in the sensation. Men are used to having full mobility and being the ones in charge of the physical space, so when you use your physical form to gently anchor him to the mattress, his brain registers a massive shift in the power dynamic. He realizes he cannot run from the incredible sensation you are giving him, and he has to lie there and totally surrender to it. This physical anchoring amplifies the sensitivity of the hidden button tenfold because he can no longer distract himself with movement. Now let us talk about temperature, because this is a deeply misunderstood mechanical tool in the bedroom. Most of the time, the temperature under the sheet stays exactly the same throughout the entire encounter, which allows the nervous system to adapt and get bored. But if you introduce sudden contrast, you completely shock his nervous system in the best way possible. Before you slide your hands back down to his runway, trail the back of your hand across his lower stomach. The back of the hand is naturally cooler than your palm. This sudden cool glide against his overheated skin will make his abdominal muscles involuntarily flex, and that flexing pulls the skin tight around his main equipment, naturally increasing the friction before you even apply any more pressure. As he exhales from that cool touch, you immediately follow it with the intense heat of your breath. Bring your mouth close to his ear, but do not kiss it. Just let the hot air from your lungs wash over his earlobe while you simultaneously squeeze the grounding pad down south. The extreme contrast between the cool touch on his stomach, the hot breath on his ear, and the firm upward pressure on the base camp creates a total sensory paradox. His brain literally cannot process all of these conflicting, incredible sensations at once, and just like a computer with too many tabs open, his logical brain freezes. You want his brain to freeze so that all that is left is pure, unadulterated physical feeling. This is the exact moment you alter your stroke. Instead of the steady up and down glide, we are going to introduce the twist. Mechanically speaking, the skin on his magic wand is designed to move multidirectionally, but most people treat it like a simple pump handle. Do not be most people. Wrap your hand around the shaft, but instead of moving straight up and down, apply a slight twist of your wrist as you ascend. Imagine you are opening a very delicate jar, turning the skin gently as your thumb glides over the sweet spot under the hood. When you reach the top, you reverse the twist and bring your hand down. This twisting motion activates dormant nerve endings along the sides of the joystick that rarely get any attention during standard vanilla encounters. Emotionally, this tells him that you are not just checking a box to get him to the finish line. You are actively exploring him. You are treating his body like a complex puzzle that you are deeply invested in solving, and there is nothing more incredibly validating to a man than feeling like his partner is utterly fascinated by his physical form. While you are executing this twist with your top hand, your bottom hand is going to introduce the pulse. Up until now, you've been holding a steady pressure on the grounding pad right before his back door. Now I want you to sync the pressure with your twist. Every time you twist upward and your thumb hits the ridge under the hood, push harder into the base camp. When you twist downward, ease off the base. Push and release, twist and glide. It is a fully synchronized mechanical dance that traps the blood flow and the nerve signals exactly where you want them. He is going to start making noises he did not even know he possessed. His breathing will become ragged and his hips will start chasing your hands. When a man starts chasing your hands mechanically, trying to thrust into your touch, it means you have completely won the psychological game. He is begging for the release, but we are not going to give it to him just yet. This is where we separate the amateurs from the absolute unforgettable masters of intimacy. When he thrusts up trying to force the jackpot, you actually pull back. Not completely, so do not leave him high and dry, but just lighten your grip by 50%. You let him slide through your fingers with barely any friction at all. This mechanical denial is an emotional masterstroke because it frustrates him in the most delicious, agonizing way possible. It forces him to realize that he does not dictate the pace in this room, you do. Look him dead in the eye when you lighten your grip and let him see the slight confident smile on your face. Let him know that you feel his desperation and you are completely unfazed by it. This combination of physical teasing and emotional dominance is the ultimate recipe for a mind-melting connection that hooks his brain to yours. Now let us seamlessly transition into the final escalation because we cannot leave him hovering on the edge of the cliff forever and eventually you have to push him over. When you do, it needs to be an absolute undeniable explosion. To trigger the instant jackpot, you have to read his physical signs like a dashboard on a sports car. You are looking for the absolute point of no return. You will know he is there when his toes curl, his jaw locks tight, and his breathing stops being rhythmic and turns into sharp involuntary gasps. When you see these signs, you do not slow down and you do not tease anymore. It is time to bring the hammer down. Mechanically, your grip needs to tighten significantly right at the base of the joystick. You are effectively trapping all the energy and blood flow in the upper half of his equipment. Your thumb, the absolute star of the show, needs to lock directly onto that sensitive ridge under the hood. Stop the twisting and stop the long, slow strokes. This is about hyper-focused, intense micro movements now. You are going to apply rapid, shallow friction directly onto the sweet spot. Imagine a hummingbird beating its wings where it is incredibly fast, it is precise, and it does not waver. At the exact same time, your other hand needs to press up into the base camp with absolute unwavering force. You are sandwiching his entire pleasure center between these 2 points of extreme pressure, and you do not let up for a single second. But here is the massive emotional anchor that makes this completely unforgettable. As you are driving him through this final peak, you have to use your voice. Men are highly visual creatures, but in the dark, when their eyes are squeezed shut in ecstasy, they become entirely auditory. If you are silent during his jackpot, you are leaving half the emotional connection on the table. Tell him exactly what is happening and tell him to let go. Use a low commanding tone right next to his ear. When you say the words "let go" for me while your hands are flawlessly executing the mechanical triggers, you are giving his subconscious brain the final permission slip it desperately needs to completely shatter. The physical release will be so intense that his whole body will tense up like a bowstring. Maintain the pressure entirely. Do not immediately pull your hands away when he hits the jackpot because the area under the hood becomes hypersensitive right after the finish line. If you just drop his magic wand like a hot potato, the sudden loss of touch can feel jarring and emotionally disconnecting, causing him to retreat into his own shell. Instead, you slow the mechanics down to an absolute crawl. You keep your hands wrapped gently around him, letting the heat of your palms soothe the overstimulated nerves. You ease up on the base camp, but you leave your fingers resting there softly. This physical aftercare touch is arguably the most important mechanical move of the entire night because it bridges the massive gap between animalistic release and deep romantic intimacy. While his heart rate is slowly coming down from 150 beats per minute, your slow, gentle strokes tell him that you are not just there for the fireworks, you are there for the warmth of the embers too. Lay your head against his chest and let him wrap his heavy arms around you. His brain is currently flooded with more bonding hormones than he has felt in months, and by physically staying attached to him in this incredibly vulnerable come down, you wire his brain to associate this profound sense of peace and pleasure entirely with your physical presence. He will start to crave not just the mind-blowing physical techniques you used, but the emotional safety you provided in the aftermath. He will realize in that quiet moment that no one else has ever taken the time to study his body like this, to map out his sweet spots, to control his pacing, to deny him, to push him to the brink, and to ultimately catch him when he falls over the edge. You have essentially hacked his nervous system from the inside out. You have taken the mechanical art of finding his hidden buttons and elevated it to a high-value art form of emotional connection. A lot of women ask me why men pull away after physical intimacy, and the harsh truth is that if the encounter was just purely physical friction with no emotional anchoring, his biology tells him the job is done and it is time to move on to the next task. But when you apply this exact combination of deep psychological anchoring, precise thumb work on the hidden button, and the powerful grounding of the base camp, you short-circuit that natural biological withdrawal. You replace his desire to pull away with a desperate, undeniable need to stay close to you. He will wake up the next morning and look at your hands completely mesmerized by what you are capable of doing to him. He will sit in boring meetings at work staring blankly at spreadsheets while his brain endlessly replays the exact moment you looked into his eyes and commanded him to let go. This is how you stop being just another fun encounter and become the absolute unmatched standard by which he measures every other physical experience for the rest of his natural life. This is not just about getting busy and having a good time under the sheets. This is about becoming undeniably, utterly irreplaceable to a man. When you master the delicate, intricate balance between the physical friction on his joystick and the emotional gravity of your eye contact, your pacing, and your confident voice, you unlock a deeply devoted version of him that he reserves for absolutely no one else in the world. You hold the master key to his absolute surrender, and once you turn that key, the incredible connection you share will be absolutely explosive both in and out of the bedroom forever.